What's up? How are you guys? Um, so this is my fourth part of the Sim KECING. This one's gonna be a little bit different because I'm gonna speak in English and just because I have English guest, which I'm very pleased about and very happy about. His name is Alex Fung, as you can see on the picture above. Um, just a reminder for you guys who don't know what simcatching about. The simcatching is a broadcast or podcast, which is focused on like interviewing guys from sim racing or motorsport, real racing, um, area. So we will do talking about what we're doing. We're doing talking about racing and sim racing, and we're trying to uh, we're trying to like make a touch about um, like the carriers of the guys who are doing sim racing or real racing. So let's jump on. Alex, a little bit to say about Alex. Alex is a great guy, and obviously he's a very experienced driver. I think he's driving in real life as a real racer from 2016. He's gonna give us more information about him and his racing career. But what I would like to say about Alex and how I met him, it's very funny story. It's not funny story, but it's a great story, and it says how generous and how good person Alex is, and why I like him so much. So basically, when the first wave was here, the coronavirus wave. So we were both racing as hell, right? Because we were at home and doing nothing. So we were racing so much of our time. And then I remember first time we met, it was on iRacing on Laguna Seca. I think we were doing small IMSA with GT4s, and I had the great racing with him on the track. I didn't know him, I think he or me first wrote him a message on iRacing that it was a great race. So from that moment we started chat a little bit. Then we got connected on Discord, and it made a habit for us to race every night for a long time, maybe for a few weeks, for a few months. So, but what I want to say, it was like 2 weeks after we met. We were racing every night, every day, so many hours, and then we came to the part when we were discussing about like our setups, what we have, what we're racing on, and what we would like to upgrade. And then I told Alex that I would like to try VR, and he said, "Okay, I have like extra VR at home in my closet, like my old VR." So so he was like, "Okay, I can send you the VR," and I was like, "Oh no, man, are you crazy? No, what? Like I cannot take like VR from you. It's pretty expensive." He was like, "No, I don't using it. I have it in closet, so I can send it to you." And I was like, "Oh, this guy has to be crazy." Like he's so obviously, if you guys don't know, Alex lives in Hong Kong, and he's from Hong Kong, and I'm living in Vancouver, so it's like almost like so many thousand kilometers. Like it's uh, it's like almost through the half of the earth, and so I was like, he's gonna send me VR. Like it's coronavirus. It's a first wave. It's almost distance like for half an like so like big distance. And he was like, I'm gonna send you VR, and I was like, okay. Um, I couldn't believe it, and then I was like, okay, if he's gonna send it, it's not gonna come because it's a first wave of the virus, and then or or it's gonna take like half a year. And then in 3 days, the delivery driver knocked on my door with the VR, and I was like, "What the hell is this guy owning FedEx or something?" So yeah, I was so surprised, and I still couldn't believe that he sent me the VR, just for free, just like that. So it says about Alex how generous and how kind person is he is, and I really appreciate him to accept this invite for this broadcast, and I'm very honored. So let's get connected. I'm gonna try to connect on Alex. We're gonna have some talk about mainly his real racing, because that's his main part of his life, and a main part of how he's connected with the motorsport. Sim racing is just obviously addition for him. So we're gonna have mostly talk about motorsport, then a little bit of talking of sim racing, and yeah, we'll see what Alex gonna say us. So let's do it. All right, Alex, can you hear me?
Hey, Jacob. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. You hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, I hear you, bro. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just gonna put this on the full screen. Okay, it should be there. Full screen. Awesome. All right, good to see you. So I would like to welcome you in this broadcast, man. Like I said, I did some fast intro, and I mentioned that I'm so honored, and I'm very happy to have you here, because not only because you're a very experienced driver in the real life, but also you're very kind and generous person. I mentioned the story about how you sent me your VR, man. It's
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. Even when it was here, I was like, this guy is crazy. Like, he sent it almost like through the half of the earth, and it came like in 3 days. And even when I'm sending something within Slovakia, it takes like 3 4 days. And you send me VR from Hong Kong to Vancouver to Canada. It came 3 days. And it was first wave of Corona. Oh my God.
The thing I couldn't believe was you were racing on a single monitor, and you were driving so quick, and I was just surprised that after talking about our gear, how you said you never tried VR, and I was constantly racing VR then. I had my Oculus Rift, the CV1, I believe, the first version of Oculus, and yeah, it was just sitting in my closet, and you know, uh, I couldn't believe you were racing on a single monitor and you've never tried VR, so I sent it over to you to try.
Yeah, I was very thankful, man. But you cannot even believe how many people on what cheap things they're driving, and they're doing so good. So nowadays, and that's why I love sim racing. That's what I love about sim racing. It's so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
a-
yeah, yeah,
approachable to so many guys who would never who would never be able to think about, right, the real racing, not even like the basic form of like the kart racing. So that's the great thing. All right, bro.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I agree with you on that in terms of sim racing hardware. The greatest thing about sim racing is that you don't need to have the best hardware to be fast. You don't have to have triple screens, you don't have to have VR, you don't have to have hydraulic pedals, you don't even need to have a direct drive wheel to be fast. So I totally agree with you in terms of, to start sim racing and to get into the sport and to be fast, you don't need the best hardware
Yeah.
to be fast. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you on that. That's why I love sim racing too.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, so let's move. I'm just gonna give the picture of how it's gonna look like today. So basically, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through your firstly, we're gonna go through your real racing experience, through your like your whole career, how it began, and how it is going today, and then we're gonna move continuously to the sim racing. You're gonna tell us something about your sim racing experience, about your setup, and all the stuff like that. And then from that, we're gonna move to some racing. Actually, on sim racing simulator race room experience, we're gonna have some races. Well, you're gonna give me some guide on Macau, which is your home track. You're gonna give me some introduction, and then we're gonna have some little fun battles on Sepang, I guess, right? And
Sure, sure, sure.
yeah,
Sounds good.
and then we're gonna do it on TCR car, which is your favorite and actually the real car which you're driving in. So it's gonna be fun. All right, so let's start.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, man. Um, what was first? Was the sim racing first or the real racing first?
It's a really good question. I guess to start off, I'll explain why I got into cars. Growing up, my father, he's always loved cars, and he always had certain sports cars that he would buy. And as a kid, maybe 10 years old, I always sit in the passenger, and he would explain to me, you know, how to drive, heel and toe techniques,
Mhm.
and at a very young age, because of my dad's passion for cars, I enjoyed cars a lot, and eventually down the road, I think when my dad was around 40, 40, yeah, around 40 years old, he started real racing, and at that time he was racing touring cars mostly, um, Honda cars, so DC5s, EP3s, um, EFs even, the older Honda Civics. And when he started racing, I was really fascinated by it. It's one thing to drive sports cars, but it's another to race cars. So at a very young age, I was approached where I was exposed to real racing, and that was really fascinating to me to learn the big differences between driving fast on the road, or not even driving fast, the modifications needed on a race car versus modifications on a race car versus a street car. So my father, when he started racing, he realized that it's, especially in Asia, there's not many opportunities for drivers to go professional. It's not as prominent as in Europe or in America, where if you're a good driver, you can get scouted and sponsored and possibly become a professional race car driver. So
Yeah.
my dad was always just I would say amateur racer, but he raced a lot, and sponsorship wasn't too prominent, so a lot of the racing, a lot of the budget would have to be out of his pocket. So even though at a young age I was watching him race and I told him, hey, I'm really interested and I want to race too, at a very young age he was telling me that if I ever want to race, I'd have to make my own money, save up, and pay for it for myself. you know the unfortunate thing about real racing is that it costs a lot of money,
Yeah.
not only to buy the car, but to maintain the car. Every race weekend we'd go through dozens of sets of tires, you
Mhm.
know and those tires cost a lot of money, and then there's a lot of maintenance, and most importantly, you need to have a team.
Mhm.
You need to have an engineer, you need to have mechanics, so all these things added up. It was quite the budget for racing, even on the amateur level, is extremely high. So um racing for me at a young age wasn't possible because my dad wanted me to make my own money to race. So that's where sim racing came into the picture.
Mhm.
So when I think I was about 12 years old, 12 or 13, when the first Gran Turismo
Mhm.
came on Sony PlayStation.
Okay.
Even though I was racing on a controller, but that's where I really, really started enjoying racing. It's not like it's not like how I would play Need for Speed, where
Yeah.
you're just crashing into the wall and just trying to get away from cops and doing very how should I say, driving unrealistically.
Yeah.
That Gran Turismo was the game that really taught me, the beginning workings of racing.
Yeah, so you said
So
was it fifth or sixth part of Gran Turismo? You said fourth. Which one you said? Sorry.
no, the first
Oh,
Gran Turismo 1.
oh my God, it was like 99,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the game that really got me into to sim racing.
It's
I didn't have a wheel or pedal, but racing on controller was very fun.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because it was the same for me. 99. I remember it was 98 or 99. My dad bought it under the tree on the Christmas, and yeah, that was also my first game. And yeah, Gran Turismo was very huge thing. It brought up motorsport and like the cars and racing closer to a lot of games, and it was like I think a little breakaway in this way.
Yeah. And I think it was Gran Turismo 3. I don't remember when Logitech came out with the G25, was it?
Hmm.
I forgot the first Logitech wheel. Do you remember what it was? The
I don't know. I'm
the
not familiar.
G25 was
I'm not familiar with the
yeah.
Logitech products. No.
Yeah, so the first ever Logitech wheel and pedal setup came out. That's when I got my first somewhat rig. I would have it attached to my coffee table, and then I'd have the pedals on the carpet. Yeah, and that's where I would try to learn the basics of trail braking,
Yeah.
gradual throttling. Yeah, because I started sim racing even
Hmm.
before I had my license. Yeah,
So you were a
but I
teenager, right?
didn't.
How old are you
Yeah,
approximately when you started? Like when you bought your first wheel? Approximately.
man, that's a really good question. I think I was around 18, 19. No. It was before I got my license. I got my license when I was 16.
Hmm.
So I got my first rig around for 14, 13, 14. Yeah.
Okay.
13, 14, around there. Yeah.
So in that time you were in Canada or in Hong Kong?
Yeah. Well, little background. I was actually born and raised in Canada. I went to school there. I did my undergrad and my master's at Waterloo University, and then after I did my master's, I moved here to Hong Kong. Yeah,
Nice. So
yeah,
okay. So
and
yeah, yeah. Continue. Yeah, keep going.
yeah. So when I moved to Hong Kong, that's where I worked for about 4 years. I made decent money, and I started saving up. And 4 years after I moved here in 2016 is when I first started racing. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it more. We're gonna move a little bit. So you already described your beginning with the real racing. I mean, you started. You said beginning with the sim racing. So 2016 was the year when you started real racing, right?
That's correct.
So what was the very first experience for you on track? What was the series? What was the car? What track was it, if you remember?
Well, okay. Backtrack a bit. I've been on the track in my father's race car, maybe when I was 20 years old,
Hmm.
when I was around 20 years old. But it was just a open lap day, and it was just for me to drive the race car on an open track. It wasn't competitive or anything. So
What car was it?
that was a Honda Civic EG6. It was a 16,000 cc engine,
Oh my God.
and very very funny story with that. I was no wait, I was 17. I was 17, 18 years old, and that was during summer break when I was off school. I would fly back to Hong Kong to see my family, and we during some weekends my father would bring me up to a circle called Zhuhai,
Mhm.
which is just an hour away from Hong Kong, so it was really close. So there he took me, and I had my first taste of driving a race car on the racetrack. And after the second session, you know how young teenagers are.
Yeah.
When you're driving, and then you get a chance to go on the track, you feel like you know everything, and yeah, that was when I realized how stupid and how slow and how I didn't know anything about racing, because the transition from going from a street car to a race car was huge.
Mhm.
You know, Even though it was summertime, we're running slicks. Um, I had no idea about tire warmth and warming up tires when you first go out for your hot out lap on a race car. When you first go out, the tires are cold, they're not at operating temperature. And me being a young arrogant teenager, I thought, anything that my father could do, I could do,
Yeah.
because that actual car, he won the touring car championship.
So
and
that was actual
and
race car, right? Race car, like the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
proper
it
race
was
car.
a real race car. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was a proper race car. And I took it out, and then I think by the second session, I managed to spin out and lick the wall with it. Yeah, really, really big mistake with that. Yeah, because at that time I didn't have any experience in a race car. I didn't know about warming up the tires. I didn't know about everything. Just the proper apex. How to brake properly, how to trail brake. All these things I didn't know. And on that day, I was humbled, and I made a fool out of myself.
Yeah, man. But that's exactly what is life about. You have to do mistakes to get better, right?
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
everything what you're doing.
yeah,
Without mistakes, it's not
yeah.
possible to get better.
And one thing was that, even though I did sim racing previously, I a lot of the braking technique and the tire warming up the tires and how to control slip,
Mhm.
I I couldn't really grasp on sim racing. Yes, if you it's easy to counter steer, but you know those are some things that at that time, the software and the hardware couldn't really teach me
Yeah.
as much as I would like. Yeah, but however, sim racing's progressed significantly since then. But
Yeah,
yeah, that experience was
we're gonna talk about
yeah
it later. I
was
have I have I have some questions for you, which is very interesting for me, and I'm very curious about. And a lot of sim racing guys are curious about comparing, sim racing with the real life, and especially with the guys who has experience with both. So we're gonna go through that
yeah.
one later on. Um, so yeah, so that was your first experience. So then, when was your first, like actual? When was the first time when you were actually like, now I'm gonna go racing in competition, like competitive racing?
Yeah, so that was in 2016. I joined the Hong Kong Touring Car Championship, and that was racing also 1600 turbo cars. So uh, the car I drove, or I continue to drive to this day, is the Peugeot RCZ.
Also, you
It
start
looks like
you started on that car.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
We started on that car.
okay.
For those that don't know how it looks, this is actually here. I can show you guys.
I have some. Yeah.
This is actually uh, the car that I raced. This is a gift from my wife that that she made for me. This is exactly my first race car.
Wow,
When I first raced, and yeah, this is
it's
yeah, it looks
beautiful.
like a TT.
It
Yeah.
it's on the picture right
Okay,
now
so
on the stream, yeah, so they can see it.
yeah, so it's yeah, in 2016 that was the first championship that I raced in, and at that time, that was just a 1600 cc turbo car. It was roughly around 180 horsepower. It wasn't too fast of a car. It was front wheel drive, but that car had great balance. It was a great starter car for me, I would say. It wasn't too quick. It was easy to handle. It was sequential gearbox shifter.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah, that was in 2016. That was my first ever series race that I went into.
So what was,
and
yeah, keep going.
and yeah, so during that same year, because I anticipated to go to Macau. My father and I both agreed, or yeah, we both thought that getting as much racing experience for myself for that year was really important, because Macau, is as you may know, is a street circuit, and it's a very narrow track, and you know, it you can't make much mistakes there, because if you make a mistake, you can crash a car, you can retire the race, and most importantly, you may hurt yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
Because unfortunately, in several years previously, in 2012, I believe, one of my dad's friends, he was driving the WTCC Chevrolet Cruze car, and unfortunately, during that weekend, during qualifying, he crashed at the fastest corner in Mandarin, and it actually costed him his life. So,
Oh my god.
you know,
Yeah, that sounds.
yeah. So Macau's a very, very, I say dangerous, but also a very exciting track. So during the first year in 2016, when I first started racing, yeah, as I was saying, I tried to race in as many series as I could, just to get more
Sorry to
experience
stop.
before
Sorry to
Macau.
interrupt you. I just wanna say, do you have you when you're saying about the Macau, how dangerous is it? I know exactly. Like, I saw the video from, like, I think it was last year. Have you seen it? The girl from F3. I think it was F3, right? She crashed on that.
Yeah, yeah. Sophia Flores. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my,
She
yeah.
she crashed. Yeah, she. I was there that weekend, and I saw that happen live. So that was the corner after Mandarin, going up before going up San Francisco Hill. One mistake that the Macau, well, I guess track officials made, was that they actually put a sausage curb, a pretty big sausage curb, on the very right hand side before the right hand corner, and ultimately, that was the apex bump that launched Sophia
Yeah.
up into the air. The reason why that sausage curve was there, because a lot of racers sometimes they try to be too aggressive in taking the inside and going up Lisboa. The
Yep.
corner is called Lisboa, so they put that sausage curve there in order to prohibit racers from taking such a yeah. See, do you see that? You see that blue sausage curve on the very right hand side?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the
crazy.
blue part in that apex. See, that was the bumper that sent it flying. It's I'm very happy to know that, so even though Sophia had to have surgery to fix, but I was surprised that no one got seriously hurt from that. Because that accident was very, very, very dangerous.
It was, man. I was surprised. Like,
Yeah,
it was, on one hand it was very like unlucky, but on the second hand it was so lucky that she actually survived, because this
yeah, 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 yeah.
when I
She
when I saw the
yeah.
footage first, I thought it's like it's unreal. It's like the car was like the shot, like wow, that was crazy, man. So
Yeah. Because that corner, Lisboa is the only corner, well, one of the few corners that you can pass anyone in Macau. So it's a lot of racers. They do try to get a good line, try to get a defensive line. But in this particular instance, I think Sophia had a mechanical failure in
mhm.
which she couldn't apply her brakes at all, because if you see the speed at which she approached that corner, it was way over speed to how you should enter that corner. So it was a mechanical failure, I believe, on her car that caused her to have that impact. But I'm really happy to know that she walked away. She didn't walk away from the accident. She recovered and she's still racing today.
Yeah, man.
Uh, uh, so
So
yeah, going back to me preparing to race in Macau. You know, in Asia, Macau's deemed kind of like the Super Bowl, or kind of like the Olympics of hockey. I know you're a hockey player.
mhm.
It's kind of like the Stanley Cup. Macau in most Asian drivers, is the Super Bowl. It's the Stanley Cup. It's the pinnacle of any achievement. So, me preparing mentally, physically, and having enough experience was really important to me. I didn't expect to get any results. At the end of the day, it was my first year of racing. Um, it's a very challenging track, and my goal for that year was to not crash and get some good experience. And before the race, I joined as many championships as I could. So aside from the Hong Kong Touring Car Championship that I participated in, I also participated in the Volkswagen Polo Cup
Mhm.
in one race in Shanghai. That was a really really fun time. Although a very slow car,
Yeah.
it's a one make race. It's the Volkswagen Polo, and it was really fun because I got to drive on the Shanghai International Circuit, which is the same circuit that F1 hosts race there. So
Mhm.
it was really fun for me to drive. I didn't do as well as I wanted to. I'm not saying that I was expecting to win, but having raced in, having done two races previously, maybe I was having a bit more hope in myself. But I think I finished I think there were about 20 to 25 drivers in that race, and I finished, I think, fifth or sixth in both races. Not the greatest, but yeah,
S-
it
s-
was uh, it was an opportunity for me to get more experience, because the great thing about racing one make races is that everyone is the same in terms of power, in terms of the car's capability. So it's a lot more fighting,
mhm.
a lot more defending, a lot more attacking, and that was really important to me. Because as a beginning racer, it's really important for you to have driver awareness, where the cars are.
Mhm.
Are they where exactly are they? Are they on your inside? Or can you clear them? That experience was really valuable to me.
Yeah, and this is
And
exactly
after
this is exactly what sim racing is really good for, right? The main part, like you can get the feeling of how to behave on the track and how to orientate on the track, right? Uh, I think
exactly
that's the one of the best things about sim racing. What is the most similar to real racing, right?
exactly, having track awareness is really important, just for safety for yourself and others, because unfortunately there are times where you would encounter some racers that aren't as aware, and that could be really dangerous for everyone, including themselves. It's important to know, hey, even if you're battling with someone, when to know if they're on your inside and you have to give them way, or when they're clear and you can take the full
Yeah,
apex. I think that's really important.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The Polo Cup, it was before you competed in Macau, or was it after, or it was the same? It was the same year, obviously, the 2016.
Yeah. It was before. It was
Okay.
before I went. Before I went to Macau. I purposely joined that race just for the battles, because it's one make, and at that time, there was an opportunity for me to go to Shanghai to
Hmm.
drive an F1 circuit, which was amazing. Although it's very boring in a low power car because
It's
in
like
the
an
back
airport.
straight, yeah, after the on the back straight, after the long parabolica turn, man, I'm telling you, when you're going down the back straight, you could literally take your cell phone out, make a phone call to your buddies, and have a full conversation before you hit the end of the straight.
So you did
Yeah,
race the full layout?
yeah. We did the full layout, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I got to try the entire track and how F1 racers do it. Uh,
It,
So after I did that series, I had a really good opportunity to race in the China GT Championship, which was crazy to me because I was driving, uh, under below 200 horsepower cars, and now suddenly I get an opportunity to drive a GT car, which was amazing to me. Even though I wasn't the race itself in China GT, I wasn't racing the GTE or the GT3 cars. I was actually racing the
Cup one, right?
997. Yeah, the Cup car. You know, that was a really even though it wasn't the
Specs.
same spec as GT3 or GTE. What was really good for me was that again, I had an opportunity to learn racing, to battle people, to learn more car control, just to get more racing experience under my belt. And the great thing about the 997 Cup car is that there's no assist on anything. There's no ABS. There's no traction. Um, on my particular car, there wasn't even auto blip. It was sequential. It was sequential stick, but for downshifting, you'd have to heel and toe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a really good experience for me. And with that series, I got to travel all throughout China to different tracks. I was at Shanghai. I went to uh, where else did I go?
So how many how
Chengdu.
yeah how many races did you do with the GT car or with the
I
Cup
did
car?
3 races.
Okay.
Yeah. I did 3 races. I did one in Shanghai, one in Chengdu, and I forgot where the last stop was. But yeah, I was racing against R8s at that time, 458 Ferraris, GTRs,
Hmm.
uh,
GT
Lamborghini
GT3
Huracan,
specs,
the
GT3
Huracans.
specs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm very curious about this. We're gonna speak about it later because there's a lot of guys who are big fans of GT, like the Cup 911 Cup in iRacing, right?
Yeah,
And we did
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah.
we did also a lot of races on that car. So we're gonna speak about
Yeah.
we're gonna speak about it later. I want you to say what's your opinion, the comparison, right? Okay, so let's keep going. So
Sure.
so um so you did GT, you did Polo Cup,
Yeah.
and then you were preparing basically and like aiming and focusing on the Macau, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what time of the year Macau racing usually going on? Is it like just one event or how does it work?
Okay, so Macau only hosts the race once per year, and
Hmm.
that race is always on the third week of November.
Okay.
So it's near the end of the year, and it's only once a year. And given how it's a street circuit, you can't practice to go on Macau.
Hmm.
There's no practicing. So again, I was saying how in Asia, Macau's kind of like the Stanley Cup, it's kind of like the Super Bowl. So it was really important for me um, to race there because my father's a champion there,
Hmm.
and watching him race in Macau through so many years was really it's really magical for me because the first year I moved to Hong Kong in 2011, I went to the actual race because previous to 2011, I was in Canada doing my studies. So, during November is when finals would be happening. So that I wouldn't be ever be able to see him race in person. And in 2011, that's when I got to go for the first time, and that was also the same year that he won first place in his race. So that was really magical. So in 2016, for me to be able to race there, and also another special achievement for me was that I got to race with him actually. So my dad was my
Wow.
teammate as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, of course, I wanted to have a good result there, but again, I didn't have any expectation to where I'd finish. All I wanted to was all my goal was to keep the car in one piece, finish the race and just get as much experience as I could.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. I have already some footage of you driving on Macau. So let's
uh,
see that one. I'm very excited. I actually haven't seen, so I wanted to wait for their live. So I'm gonna see it first time now. I just prepared it. So let's
yeah,
let's watch. Okay, I'm gonna put it on. It's right over here. Okay, what's going on? So you probably okay. Should be there. So this is actually you driving the car. What do you remember
yeah.
what year is this? This is the 2016 or no?
No, no, this is 2017.
Okay.
In 2016, maybe because I was so freaking nervous, I actually forgot to turn on my GoPro when I was doing the qualify in the race,
Yeah.
so I lost all footage of that. Uh, yeah, this was the second year I was doing Macau. Yeah, there has been a big change in my car since 2016. This was had a huge power increase. It wasn't 180 horsepower anymore. It was close to 450. So it was
Mhm.
more than double.
Wow.
But yeah, this was yeah, for guys who are watching now, if you can see on the very left hand side, my mirror is broken.
That's what I
Because
was.
I went
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
wanted
I went
wanted
I
to talk about. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going.
yeah, yeah. So this was actually during qualifying, and one very rare uh, thing that you would encounter in Macau is having a clean lap because in my series there are 36 cars racing, so there are 36 people out doing qualifying because we only have 25 to 30 minutes to do it, and this track is quite long where the lap times that we're doing here was about 2 minute and 35, 34 seconds. So it's quite a long track. So with 36 people, just imagine the traffic that you would encounter. So
Yeah.
this was actually my qualifying lap. I managed to put this uh, second position, I believe.
Wow.
Second position.
From 36 guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't remember. It was either third or second. But yeah, this hairpin, the very tight hairpin, is where I crashed this car, where my left mirror was broken. So what happened on that particular accident was because it's a street circuit. the gravel and the pavement and everything is not like a racetrack. And the racetrack, everything is smooth, everything is straight. Even on the uphill on racetracks, it's all gradual.
Yeah.
On a street circuit, there's so many bumps, there's so many elevation changes, like very small elevation change. So how I crashed there was right before the big hairpin. You're flooring it all the way to fourth gear. You're full throttling, going towards that hairpin. And right when I applied my brakes, there happened to be a slight bump in elevation,
Hmm.
which led my left tire to rise up off the street, off contact with the tarmac. So when it lifted up and I hit my brakes as hard as I could, when the tire landed, I locked my brakes
Hmm.
because there was a split second where there was no contact between the rubber,
That's
my,
entire.
my
Yeah.
tire, and the tarmac. So when I landed, it locked my brake and I smashed on the left hand side of the wall, and which led to that. I'm actually very 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 lucky in that impact didn't wreck my car too much because in this race
Did you feel any
no
change?
sorry
Did you feel any change in
yeah yeah yeah
steering or anything?
yeah yeah. I did. I felt slight change in it in my steering, but in Macau, when you do a small crash or small lick like that, if your car can keep going, you just keep driving it because again, there's limited time to qualify. If I go back into the pit and try to fix everything, it might take 5 to 10 minutes, and by that time, if I go out for outlap, add another 2 minute and 30 seconds, that's 12 minutes gone. So as long as the car is drivable, where it's not, you know, it poses too much danger,
Yeah.
you always keep going. So this was an instance where I was extremely lucky because I made a mistake. I hit the wall, and luckily, I was still able to get a decent qualifying lap in.
What decent was
But
was very good if you ended up second, bro. So yeah.
yeah. One thing I want to talk about was the first time I went to Macau. So although this footage isn't the first time I went to Macau, the experience was very special and kind of chaotic to me. So the first time I went out, the average time that everyone was doing was 2 minute 45, like 2 minute 45 to 47, from what I believe. It was a lot more different than the times here because it was 180 horsepower versus now, which is close to 500 horsepower. So it was a big difference.
Yeah.
So so the weekend is lines up like this. There's a practice and then qualify and then there's a race. It's not like Formula One where you get FP1, FP2, FP3. You only have one practice, which is 30 minutes, and then a qualify, which is 30 minutes, and then you have your race, which is 12 laps. So prior to racing in Macau, I spent almost 1,000 hours on my sim
Wow.
on on Assetto Corsa racing the Macau circuit because at that time it was Race '07 by Simbin. I don't know if you ever played that game.
No.
Race '07 Simbin. They had a track, but also but it was really old game, and someone actually made the Assetto Corsa map, the Macau map for this, and it was from my teammates. I showed them this game, and they were telling me how it's somewhat similar, and it should be a good teacher for me to learn the corners and whatnot. And I was playing. Well, I wasn't playing. I was training on that for almost 1,000 hours. I was just driving that day in, day out, just trying to remember everything. And even though I got very familiar with the track,
Hmm.
and I was very comfortable, you know, I very clearly remember the first time I drove the actual race car out onto the track. I was scared shitless because I the most dangerous and scary corner for me was the Mandarin corner. And
Yeah.
that Mandarin corner, with our old race car that was about 180 horsepower, you could my teammates were taking that close to flat, being flat out in sixth gear.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too quick. It was, I think, by the time we entered that corner, it was about close to 200 kilometers,
Yeah.
maybe 180, 170, close to 200, but it wasn't 200. But I remember approaching Mandarin, and you see the corner, and I can't see the exit.
Hmm.
So just imagine the first time you're on a street circuit, and this car's capable of entering and exiting flat out.
Hmm.
But I couldn't see the exit of it, and both sides were concrete walls. So I remember approaching that corner, and I was telling myself, like, you guys are my teammates are insane. To go through this corner flat is impossible.
Yeah.
So the first time I approached that corner, I had to brake, and I downshifted, and then I took the corner like a
Like
like a
oh,
turtle, and
grandpa.
like a turtle, exactly. And it just slowly built up the speed to get confidence in there, and then you know gradually, I wouldn't downshift. I would just brake a little and then go flat, versus my teammates and other competitors, they were going there close to flat, so you can imagine the amount of speed loss I would have.
Yeah.
So anyways, I still surprisingly managed to. I qualified P6 at the end out of 36 cars.
Okay.
I qualified P6.
One question: how much practice did you do before that qualifying? Like,
In the race car or in the sim?
in the race car. So you said like in the sim almost 1,000 hours, like a lot of time, right? But like in the
Yeah,
real
yeah,
race
yeah,
car.
yeah. In the real race car, I only had half an hour for free practice,
Okay.
and then it was on to qualify. So on qualify, it was also 30 minutes, and I did my best qualifying lap on the last lap of qualify.
Okay.
So I guess in total, maybe 50 minutes on the track before I was able to get P6,
Yeah.
P6 for the race.
That
Yeah.
that's a great, man.
So yeah, I was really lucky
Yeah, like
to
30,
get that.
30 minutes in a real race car for in like very dangerous car. In like very dangerous track, and you were able to make it at P6, man. That's a good.
Yeah, I honestly, I was very surprised, and for myself, I was very pleased with the result. Again, I had no expectation to win.
Yeah.
I just wanted to complete the race in one piece, and learn. So when it came to race day, I was super nervous. I back then, when it was before the car had evolved to how it is now, the start of the race was standing start. So at that time, I was decent at launching cars. I was decent at it. I wouldn't make any superstar moves where, at the start I would make a blistering start, and overtake several cars. But when it came down to race start, because I was so fucking nervous, sorry for swearing, I I actually made a mistake, and I dropped 2 places right off the start.
Hmm.
I dropped two places, and you know that actually saved my life, because I dropped 2 places. Because when I got overtaken by those 2 cars, after T1, after T1 at Macau, I got overtaken by 2 cars, and going into Mandarin, the really fast corner, the 2 cars that overtook me, they crashed into the wall. So if I managed to maintain my place, that accident
End of your race.
involving me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I, luck was on my side that day, where
Yeah.
a mistake actually may have saved me. Yeah, and that also really scared me as well, because the main concern for me were a couple of things in Macau. Was one of the corners, where one of the most dangerous corners is Mandarin, which is where one of my father's friends passed away, because that's a high speed right hand corner.
Yeah.
And to watch two cars crash right in front of me at the beginning of the race, that really affected my rhythm.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to build my rhythm again, and then I believe on lap 3, where my teammate Paul was first,
Mhm.
and then my father was P3, and I continued to be P5 or P6. I don't remember. But anyways, we on lap 3, uh, before approaching Mandarin, I see a lot of yellow flags and a lot of warnings where it's an indication that there's an accident ahead of you, so you better slow down. So I slowed down. I went into Mandarin, and then when I got to the exit of Mandarin, I was in complete shock, and I was in disbelief because I saw my father had crashed there.
Mhm.
And it didn't look like too bad of an accident, but any kind of accident at such a high speed corner on concrete wall is
Yeah.
never good.
Yeah. Exactly.
So when I watched him crash, I contemplated to stop the race and to check to see if he's okay, because you know it was always a childhood dream of mine to race with my father,
Yeah.
having watched him race for 20 years. Yeah, as you can see in the pictures, um, that's a picture of me and my father. Um, so so I saw him crash, and then I kept radioing my engineer, asking him, "Hey, is he okay? Hey, is he okay?" And then he was telling me that, yeah, he's okay, don't worry, just keep racing, just keep racing. But then, I even though if someone else tells you he's okay, I at the end of the day, it was really difficult for me to kind of continue the race and move on and kind of keep my momentum, knowing that my father could be hurt. So I continued racing, and then I think by the 10th or ninth or 10th lap, uh, my father had gone back to the paddock, and then he went on the radio and he told me, "Hey, son, I'm all right. Just keep your head down and enjoy the race." So that's when I had a little sigh of relief, and at that time I was fourth because a car ahead of me DNF due to mechanical failure,
Mhm.
and I was chasing down P3. And when my dad told me he's all right, I I started to get in the rhythm, and I started to learn and understand the track more, so I could push the limit more.
Mhm.
So by the 10th or 11th lap, out of Mandarin again, I carried a lot of speed and momentum, and I was actually able to pass P3. And I came home in P3 my first time in Macau in my first year racing,
Oh.
and that was unreal for me. Because at the beginning of the race, I wasn't expecting any kind of result.
Yeah.
You know, any kind of result. And for me to come back on the podium, that was amazing. That kind of,
Yeah. Especially
yeah,
especially on the track where you have like 30 minutes before the qualifying to get prepared, right? Because it's like city track. And then yeah, it's a great achievement, man. And you did obviously good, and you're obviously talented guy. So yeah, man.
yeah. So I've been racing in Macau every year since then.
2016, right?
Um,
So that's four
yeah,
years.
2016, 17, 18, 19, and then this year I couldn't. But in the 4 years that I raced in Macau, it was all with my Peugeot RCZ. I've driven the car for four years.
Hmm.
And out of the 4 times I was in Macau, I was on the podium 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good job,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, congrats to you. Like I said,
yeah,
man. There is no way that you could do it without any sign of the talent. So yeah.
yeah. It was, yeah, it was good times there.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's move on to the another series. So I know that you were driving on TCR Asia, right?
hmm.
So what car was that, and how many years? And tell me something about it.
So after the first year of racing, of course, I got really addicted to racing because I just love the adrenaline. I just loved everything about it, And I had my team, which is Teamwork Motorsport. They bought two Volkswagen Golfs, the TCR Golfs, and there was a spot open for me to race there, and I jumped on the opportunity immediately.
Hmm.
You know, even though at that time it wasn't, I wouldn't have chosen the Golf because I think it yeah, Golf's not my favorite car. I'd much rather drive the Audi than the Golf. But yeah, anyways, I had no choice. But it was a good opportunity for me to try to expand to see what else. Drive a different car
Yeah.
just to see how it is. And I joined TCR China, which had also coincide races with TCR Asia,
Yeah.
and there I raced the whole season, and which was we raced in Shanghai, we raced in Ningbo, we raced in Chengdu, uh, uh, Zhejiang. Yeah, so I did a full year there, a full season there, and that was a really different opportunity, because it was again it was kind of like racing the VW Cup, because TCRs they're heavily regulated, so most cars they're similar in terms of performance. Of course, there are notable differences between each car, but
Yeah.
the level it was kind of same level playing field. This was actually a really good start for me. This was in Shanghai. I think I qualified like P6 or P7, and I had a really good launch off this. And this was the first time I started to really perfect the launch because I the launch using in the Volkswagen, you'd have to engage in the handbrake as well. So just practice upon practice, I was able to get a good launch. And as you can see, I passed 3 cars off the launch.
So basically, what you're doing there is you're holding handbrake, and then you're on your clutch, and then
Yeah, yeah.
once
So
you're starting, you're releasing handbrake and the clutch in one time, right?
no, no, no. So how it works is when there's a launch module on the car itself, where it holds your revs on the computer. If you can see, my thumb is holding a button on the left of the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
That is to engage in the launch mode, where that holds a certain amount of revs for you, even if you're flat on the accelerator.
Okay.
So I release so before the lights go out, I would I would find the biting point of the clutch, and I would slowly step down a bit more, and then I would hold the handbrake as tight as I could. So when the lights go out, what you do is you first release the handbrake, and then because you've already preloaded the clutch so much, once you release the handbrake, it's kind of like a catapult
Mm-hmm.
that pushes you. So after you release the handbrake, um, you've already preloaded power in the clutch, and then once your car keeps moving, then you slowly, gradually let off the clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually able to perfect that, and out of my teammates, I developed a pretty good start, even though my race pace wasn't as strong as theirs. But
Yeah.
at the launch,
You gain like 2 positions or three on the start, right?
three, three, three. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My starts are typically all right. Yeah. but yeah, that was a really good experience for me in TCRs. I really liked the series because
Yeah.
there was a lot of close battles with people, and that was really cool. Uh, this was in Ningbo.
Yeah, this is one of the close
Uh,
battles what you sent me with the Audi, right? It was really nice.
yeah. This whole season, we're battling with this team for quite a bit, and in this race, it was really good because me and the guy ahead, we were pretty much battling the entire race. And you know, when you have races like that, that even though the result good or bad, it doesn't matter to me because these kind of battles is what makes racing racing.
Yeah.
You know, yes, is winning fun and important? Of course it is. You know, but if you're just racing alone, you know, it's kind of like boring. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure Hamilton, you know, Lewis Hamilton feels kind of bored being in front all the time. But yeah, yeah, it was fun. I battled him almost the entire race until there were 2 or 3 laps remaining where I finally passed him.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was this was race of mine against him.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
you could really,
yeah, even when we were racing, do you remember like iRacing times during the coronavirus? We did so many TCR races together, and you actually taught me a lot. Like battling, I improved battling a lot just because of you, because you taught me like how to battle in TCR, and I think this is really good school to have like very close battles because you're able to go like bump on bump, like door on door, right? So
yeah. See, this is why I like the TCR series a lot more. The cars are pretty much leveled.
yeah,
Um, and you have it enables drivers to have these close battles, which is, you know, which excites me. You know, of course, I forgot to mention in China GT, you know, it was fun because I was driving a really fast car, and you know, you're driving a GT car. Of course, it's cool, but you know, once after 2 3 laps, you know, everyone settles in, and then everyone has this large gap between them, and then you're just doing pretty much qualifying laps through the entire race.
yeah,
And that to me is not too fun. I think if it were a one make Porsche Cup race, it would be a lot better.
hmm,
Yeah, it would have a lot more close battles. But you know, typically in touring car, you know, it's kind of like BTCC or WTCC back in the day. It's very close battles, and that's what I like.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I remember that you once told me, like when we were racing and when I was battling with someone, I used to when I was attacking someone, so you taught me the way what I'm using for now. I need help me in racing, like go always as close as possible to the guy next to you, even when you're approaching the corner and you're on inside. So yeah, I always had tendency to go a little bit more to the inside, right? So what I was able, I was like making sure that I'm not gonna make a touch with the guy, but it actually cost me a time because I didn't have that good entry. So you taught me. I
yeah.
remember that one. It helped me a lot, and I'm using it now. I'm always trying to squeeze the guy as much as possible on outside and use all the
Yeah.
yeah. So that helped me a lot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you know, teaching, you know, I can't say that, you know, I'm very professional, I'm very experienced because all of my teammates have been racing for 20 plus years. So a lot of these things, a lot of these tactics, a lot of these strategies are taught to me by my teammates, and you know, even a world champion, Rob Huff. You know, he's a WTCC multiple champion there and WTCR.
Hmm.
You know, he works closely with my team, Teamwork Motorsport, and you know, I've been very fortunate enough to drive alongside him and for him to, you know, teach me a lot of things along with my father and my other teammates. So you know, going into racing, you know, I was very fortunate to have this kind of ecosystem or circle where there's so many experienced drivers to teach me a lot of these mistakes I would have to learn on my own. And of course, that saved me a lot of time, a lot of tears, because sometimes when you make a mistake, you can crash the car and it can be quite devastating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what. Now I notice on the footage. If you can remember, I was asking you once. Do you remember when I was asking you, like, why he stepped or like blinked on the brakes? And I couldn't I
Ah,
couldn't understand. Like I was trying to understand what he was doing, and then you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
explained me the pumping the brake to get the pressure inside, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
So what happens is, during racing, it's called a brake knock.
yeah,
Okay, I don't know the official term for it, but we call it brake knock. So what happens is when you're on the circuit and you're driving over the apex or over rumble strips that vibrate a lot, sometimes during braking, you when you go over those rumble strips, your piston may still be somewhat intact, or it may be retracted from the caliper. So when you're approaching the or any corner where you need to do heavy braking, it's a good habit for you to use your left foot to tap the brake.
yeah,
So just to make sure that there's enough oil in your brake line and that your brakes are all there. Because sometimes if you're following someone, you know when you're behind someone drafting them, you're technically having a lot of dirty air.
yeah,
So when you have a lot of dirty air is not cold air, not the most efficient air. So when your brakes aren't being cooled as much as they could be, sometimes when you step on the brake, immediately you wouldn't have the same kind of feeling as if you were, driving in front and having clean air. So that tapping of the brake is a good habit to have, just to make sure that your brake is at the most optimum that it can be. So this is a big difference between real racing and sim racing, where
yeah. Those little
you don't have to worry.
exactly those little things, right? So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, when I first
yeah,
saw the footage, like I said, I remember asking you. I couldn't understand like what's happening. I thought that he's trying
yeah,
to say something to you, like by the like the tapping the brake. I don't know. It's like something like I don't know, make awareness of you, like So, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
sometimes
See,
as a flashing light, right? So, and then
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, then I realized, and you explained me. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. The flashing lights is something that people do, especially in sim racing. In real racing, some people do as well, but it's not something that I do.
okay. Also,
Unless it's
also with the
yeah.
brakes, they usually do like little taps for the brake to make you aware or something like, when they're approaching.
No, 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 no.
No, no on the brakes, right?
No, 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 no. The tapping the brake is
It's
purely for themselves.
yeah,
Yeah, purely for themselves. Yeah, yeah. It's not because when you're in a setting like this, even though TCR cars aren't too fast, if you start doing things like that on the track, it really endangers
yeah,
everyone, include So it's for at least from the drivers that I've driven with, they've never done anything purposely with the brake to try to
yeah, man.
cause any collisions or whatnot. Yeah, they're very different from sim racing in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the sim races which has the right purpose of racing, they don't do it. It's just like the kids or the guys who's playing. So yeah, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. So TCR, that's your experience from TCR. So we went through your experience so far. So you started to racing 2016, and then you did Macau every year since that year for 4 years, 16, 17, 18.
yeah,
Oh, 3 years, I guess. 16, 17,
yeah.
18.
Four, four,
Four,
four.
four,
16, 17, 18,
yeah,
19.
yeah.
4 years.
And before
Yeah,
that,
this year we couldn't go because of coronavirus. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I could have went, but I needed to quarantine for 2 weeks, and my I just had a daughter, that was born recently. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave her for 2 weeks just to go racing, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, man.
because at the end of the day, racing is for fun, and I need to be there for my family.
Yeah, man. Of course. The family is
Yeah,
always first, man. And
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah, most
so
definitely.
TCR, before the like first year you did like you said GT cars with the Porsche Cup. Then you did Polo, right? The Polo Cup, or
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah. The
Macau,
VW Polo Cup.
and then
Yeah, yeah.
TCR next year's with also Macau, I guess. And then what is there any other experience with the other cars, any other series?
Yeah, at the end of the second year of racing, no, sorry, first year of racing, we had an opportunity to do an endurance race in Spa, which was amazing. We actually went to my team and I. We went to Belgium to do the VW Cup. I think it's just called a yeah, VW Cup, and it's with a kit car that's a shell of the older Beetles,
Hmm.
and it's also about 160 horsepower car, and it's
Front wheel, right?
you sit in, yeah, 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 front wheel drive car. No, no, it was rear wheel drive. It was a
Oh,
rear wheel drive car,
okay.
and it was a rear wheel drive car, and you sit in the middle, and depending on the car you had, some people were driving manual, some people had sequential. Our car was sequential, so yeah, that was really fun. That was a 8 hour or 6 hours endurance race,
Hmm.
and it was really fun because there was over 100 cars there,
Hmm.
and it was a one make race. Everyone had the same car. Yeah, yeah. This is the picture of it. Just imagine, we've both driven Spa on sim
It
for
looks funny, man. It looks funny, definitely.
honestly, the car itself looks kind of whack. It looks like Cars, like the Disney movie, but
Yeah.
you know, from from a pure driving experience, it was one of the best experience I've ever had because that car is fun to drive. Don't look at the outside of the car, but when you're
Yeah.
driving it, it's a fun little car to drive. You're racing against 100 other people,
Yeah.
in an 8 hour race. And I have to really commend European racers there. The venue, the environment, it's such an amazing, amazing environment because everyone's friendly,
Hmm.
you know, everyone's happy there, everyone's there to help each other. For example, if you encounter any mechanical problems or you need help, the neighbors of your in your garage, the mechanics were all happy to help. It was just the environment was just very, very fun. You know, when we all did 2 hour stints,
Yeah.
um, you would think it's a long time, but when you're in the car, it's so fun. Like I could easily do double stints in that car.
Hmm.
It wasn't too physically demanding, but it was just extremely fun. And yeah, we all didn't want to get out of the car, and the greatest thing about this race is that, even if you're not the quickest, which we weren't, I think we finished top 10
Hmm.
or something. I forgot. Like in no we had no chance to fight for the podium, but that didn't matter, because the point of us going to that race was to enjoy and have fun. And during the entire time I was in the car, I was battling someone, and of course, when you have 100 racers, there is going to be fast, there's going to be decent racers, and there's going to be slow racers. So no matter where you were on the track, you would always have battles with people.
Yeah.
And in that series, even the very fast or competitive racers, everyone's very gentleman. There was You would never encounter a driver that would do anything, dangerous or kind of risk anything, you
Yeah.
know. there were good battles, and it was just an overall great time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what about Spa? So you have driven the Spa.
yeah,
what
yeah.
what's your feeling about that track? How's the Air Rouge? I mean, like with that car, is
Man,
it also
yeah,
dependable what car you're driving over there, but still,
yeah.
how did you like it?
Even though I was driving a slower car, Spa is one of my favorite tracks in the entire world. You know, it encompasses everything. Big elevation changes, high speed corners, low speed corners, flat out corners. It has everything you would want as a race car driver.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I were to drive a faster car, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much because when I was driving the Volkswagen Cup car,
Mhm.
in Eau Rouge, you could easily go. Okay, I wouldn't say easily. You could go flat there,
Mhm.
and even when you go flat in a low horsepower car, the aerodynamics wasn't great, but it still kept you very, kept you on your toes. You'd have to always be aware, and
Yeah.
it was just a thrilling environment. That track is beautiful inside and out. You're surrounded by a forest. You know, Eau Rouge, a lot of people may underestimate how steep and how big the elevation changes. Even in a 180 horsepower car, when you go through that dip and
Yeah.
on top of Eau Rouge, it's exhilarating. I can't explain it to you.
It's the
It's
same.
just simply amazing.
It's the same like the Laguna Seca. How is it called?
The corkscrew.
Corkscrew. Yeah. Like I saw the video
Yeah,
about it. How steep is it? It's crazy. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. I personally haven't driven on Laguna Seca, but I don't elevation change or the angle wise. I'm not sure how steep it is, but I'm 100% sure it's not as exciting or as exhilarating as
It's
Eau
Rouge.
Rouge, because
Yeah.
Eau Rouge, it's a very high speed
Yeah.
corner versus the corkscrew. It's a very low speed corner on the exit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's not as I'm
Exciting.
sure it's not as fun. But yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, Spa is really a really amazing track because, yeah, as I was saying earlier, it encompasses everything: slow speed corner, fast speed corners, flat out corners, elevation changes. It has everything.
Yeah. So
And
with that being said, so you said you have driven the Spa. What other tracks European have you driven? European ones.
oh, well, unfortunately, not too many. The other track I've driven on is Nordschleife,
Okay. Yeah. But
which was
track days, right?
yeah, yeah, it was track days. I personally have never raced there. My teammates have. They've raced in the 24-hour championship,
Hmm.
the VLN, the actual VLN.
Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't had the opportunity to race there. But racetrack wise, yeah, I've only raced on Spa,
Yeah.
and I've driven Nordschleife. I've never raced in Nordschleife. Yeah,
What do you think about Nordschleife?
that is another insane track. I would put Nordschleife almost as
That's Macau.
scary and dangerous as Macau. Yeah, but what's unfortunate is that before going to Nordschleife to drive, I wasn't a big fan of Nordschleife. Not that I disliked it. I never took the time to learn that track
Yeah.
before going, because my focus at that time was to focus and learn Spa. And when I went to Nordschleife, we just rented race cars and just drove, not even flying laps, just enjoyed the track.
Fun. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
but
said
it was until
you did it in Suzuki Swift, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. It
Rental
was
car.
again, yeah, yeah. Again, it was if you look at the car, it's kind of laughable, but it's for me at least, it was more than enough fun. It was a stick shift. It had a roll cage. It had race suspension, brakes, and slick tires, and yeah, it was more than enough for me, because again, I wasn't familiar with the track. Um, if if I were, it would be a lot more enjoyable. But even then, it was one of the most amazing tracks.
Yeah.
Because when I met you in iRacing, that's when I started to learn the track and appreciate it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I just wish I met you earlier, so I would have known that track earlier. But
Thank you.
I do hope to go back. I want to participate in the Volkswagen Cup
Hmm.
again. I want to do. Oh, it's called Fun Cup. Now I remember.
Oh yeah.
Volkswagen Fun Cup.
So
Yeah, they have a 25 hour race that I want to do. I want
so
to go there, and then I want to,
so on
yeah, go
iRacing
back to
we did
racing.
like three endurance racing together on iRacing, right? With the TCR we did four
Yeah,
hours. It was fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love those.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
That was fun.
that was our together.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's move on. So I would like to ask you. So I already asked you what tracks have you driven in Europe. I would like to ask you what is your favorite track within like from all those tracks. What have you driven?
I'd still have to say Macau is my favorite track.
Okay.
Um, Maybe because it holds special meaning to me.
Yeah.
It's considered my home track. It's one of the most challenging tracks that I've ever driven, and just growing up as a young teenager, just watching my father race there, and how many crashes I see there. Even professionals, they
Yeah.
crash there.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging, demanding track.
Of
you know
course.
the 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 very the very unique aspect of Macau is that there's no runoff area, meaning if you miss your break point or you spin out, there's no run up, there's no gravel, there's no grass. So if you mess up, you're smacking a cement wall.
Yeah.
So that really tests a driver's car control. How much they can push the car to the limit without brushing the wall or endangering themselves. That is constantly a big challenge that
Yeah. That
that
that brings my mind to Formula One at Monaco, man. It's just ridiculous.
yeah,
Like imagine those speeds over there. I mean, also in your
yeah, yeah,
level
yeah,
it's crazy, but those guys it's just, and people doesn't realize they like when they're watching it at TV, it's just like it looks so easy, it looks so safe, but like one little mistake, one second difference in braking or like turning in, it can make a fatal, you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I guess that's why that challenging aspect really attracts me.
Yeah.
You know, um, and the thing is, it's not like Nordschleife where you could drive your own car there and pay to practice on there. Macau's only once a year, and you can't practice there.
Yeah.
You can't practice there ever. So
Yeah, man.
when your practice time is limited, you'd really have to excel as a driver and capitalize on the time that you have during practice and qualify
Yeah. Okay.
and perform in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, man. And what all cars have you driven? So you said you driven a cup car, a 911. You drove TCR cars. You drove
Yeah.
that BMW. I mean the Volkswagen Beetle cup car, Funk.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot one. It's not in Europe, but I also did an endurance race in Dubai
Oh yeah,
for it was a 24-hour series. I was driving the Audi TCR, the RS3,
yeah.
and that was quite a interesting race that I did with my team.
What year was
Um,
it?
this was in 2017.
Okay,
It
so
was 2017.
second
Yeah, it
year
was
of
at
you.
the beginning of the year.
of you racing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So this one, this livery
yeah,
we actually have on iRacing, right? You made it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You made the guy made
yeah,
it
yeah,
for us,
yeah,
and it's actually beautiful. And I'm still
yeah,
using your liveries in iRacing. So
yeah. Nice, nice, nice.
this is
But yeah, this was this. I enjoy driving this car a lot more. I think aerodynamically it's stronger than the Volkswagen. I
yeah.
like the characteristics of this more than the Volkswagen.
What's the biggest
Um,
difference between those cars? If you like, even within the TCR, within the TCR specs, what would be
yeah,
the biggest difference between the Audi and the Golf?
it's definitely the high speed handling of the car because at the end of the day, the Audi, even though the shape of it is not as streamlined as a GT3,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, there's still a trunk and a proper spoiler for it versus Audi is a hatchback. So aerodynamically, it's significantly, um, uh, how do I say it, no, not underpowered, disadvantaged,
Yeah.
because hatchback versus sedan, there's a big difference.
So
In terms
so
of,
sedan would be better for aerodynamics, right? Because of the flowing of air, right? Or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, if you're strictly speaking hatchbacks versus sedans, yeah, 100%. Sedans have better aerodynamics.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but just overall, the feeling of the car, I like the Audi more.
And
Just how it drives, how it feels.
it,
But power wise, it's similar. It's not
yeah.
significantly overpowered or underpowered. It's pretty similar.
And like I would like to ask the 24-hour like the endurance race how it looks like so basically you guys doing stints, right? Usually like 2 hours, 1.5 hour, and then what do you usually do
Yeah.
between the stints and
Well, me personally, it was my first 24-hour race. Originally, we planned to, after we have our driver schedule, you know, we would typically have two stints apart from when we would drive because all of us want to drive equally.
yeah,
Again, we were there to enjoy the race. We weren't there to try to win or anything. But uh, with that in mind, we would just take turns. We had four drivers there, so um, 1, 2, 3, 4 would drive, and then it would loop back to the first driver, second driver, third, and fourth.
yeah,
So we planned to. I was the second or third. Third. I was driving the third stint. So after I drove my stint, I was the plan was to get sleep. But since it was my first ever endurance race, I was really excited because we're sharing the track with all these Blancpain GT racers. All the top guys there. You know, um, and to be able to race with them on the same circuit, even though I was driving TCR, it was really exciting. Um, it was a multi-class race. There was GT3s there. There were GT4s. There were Cup cars, and then there were many other different kind of class cars there. And I think there were over. I think there was over 8 different classes of cars there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was quite
And
quite different.
how is it? Is it very scary when the other like the faster serious cars trying to over especially during the night? It has to be very specific, like a very special. Like even when on the highway when I'm imagining that someone's going from behind me, right? And on the
Yeah,
fast car, it's kind of scary sometimes, like
yeah,
to make sure that you know what speed they're going and how fast they're coming to you. It's not
yeah,
easy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. One of the most difficult things we encountered was the speed differential between TCR and GT3.
Yeah,
The difference between those two cars is significant, and that made the race unenjoyable because at the same time, you don't want to hold up a faster car,
Yeah.
because it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't benefit yourself. It doesn't benefit the opponent. I wouldn't even call him an opponent because he's in a different class.
And
There's no point in holding him up. But driving during the night was the most difficult because all these GT cars, they would have multiple. They wouldn't just have one headlight. They would have multiple headlights that that are on the car. So even if you're approaching a corner, when you just glance at your rearview mirror, you would see six different lights, and that would be it would be really disorienting because sometimes when they're both battling, you would see so many lights, so many sets of lights that you don't know.
yeah, what is
You
what
don't
car?
exactly know
Yeah.
where. Yeah. So when you're approaching a corner, the best thing to do is just to stay in your lane. And sometimes because the speed differential was so big that, let's say I was on the exit of a corner. When you're exit of a corner, even if you look at all mirrors, you don't exactly know where your opponent, or not your opponent, but you wouldn't know exactly where the other GT3 cars are, because when they're battling, they're crossing lines a lot, and the speed differential is so big that, when we would make a turn in or break, they could easily just go on your inside
Yeah.
or outside, and they could change directions relatively quick, as opposed to if you're battling another TCR. Approximately, okay, if he's behind you, if you were to put it on your inside, you would know exactly approximately where their car would be. But when you're driving a TCR versus a GT3 car, the speed differential was so big, and that their direction changes a lot quicker than yours. It was really it was really frustrating. I wouldn't say frustrating. It was really dangerous, I felt, for me, because it was my first time driving a 24-hour race at night, and it was the first time me encountering such a big speed differential between cars. But luckily, we weren't involved in any accidents.
Yeah.
We brought the car home in one piece.
Yeah, but with that,
And
with
at one point,
yeah, yeah, keep going.
no, 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 you go first.
No, with that being said, I wanted to keep touch on one thing. So in sim racing, there is a lot of times the conversation going on about like for example in multi class racing, or even like in the same class racing, from the back markers, right, on under the blue flag.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to mention. Like you said it really clearly. Like when you're back marker or you're on the blue flag, the best thing what you can do. Sorry for that. So the best
Yeah,
thing,
no problem.
the best thing what you can do is like just stay on your line, and be as much predictable as possible, right? And not doing any crazy moves. Just stay on your line and let the faster guy decide what he want to do, right? And then based on that you can go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So when I was racing this series, we were racing against many of the regular Blancpain pro drivers. So a lot of these guys, they're number one, they're really quick drivers, and they're really decisive with their move. Like, they'll let you know ahead of time that they're really aggressive, but they're aggressive in a way where it doesn't put anyone in danger. So, whenever I see any GT3 cars approach, the first thing to do is stay in your line. Be predictable.
Yeah,
If you sometimes a mistake people make is that, even though their intention is to be nice, like for example, if I see a GT car coming, some drivers, they may move aside, move off the racing line, and to let the GT3 pass. But when you do that direction change, it's very dangerous for everyone, because the speed differential is so big.
yeah,
When the GT3 is coming up on you, and if you change your line all of a sudden, he'll need to make a drastic move in order to avoid you.
yeah,
So the best way to approach, or how we approached it, was just be predictable as possible. If you're going into a corner, if you know that he's not on your inside yet, you could take the apex. But most of the time, we were driving very conservative, in that even if, the car was maybe 50 meters behind us, approaching into a corner, we would still take the outside. We would never hug the corner,
Yeah.
because the speed differential is so big that if you make that one error, you could damage both your cars, and you could possibly even hurt yourself. So at the end of the day, because you're two different class cars, there's no point.
Yeah.
There's 0 point to put to block them in any way. It's not beneficial for you. It's not beneficial for them. Sometimes in an endurance race like this, some small mechanical failures can cost you the race. At one point during the race, we were actually P2.
Hmm.
We were P2, and we had hope to actually bring it back in P2, but we encountered mechanical failures, well, electronical failures, and I actually have a funny story about why we couldn't be on the podium in that race. So, um, because it was me and my team's first endurance 24-hour race, driver change is important. You could lose critical time during driver change. So before the race, my teammates and I, we were practicing driver change, and we're trying to get the best strategy. Because the driver hopping out, oh sorry, before hopping out the car, there are certain things the driver can do to um, to make the driver change quicker. Because we're in Dubai and the temperature is relatively hot, we all had water bottles there with us. So we had to strategize on how to disconnect certain things before we actually approached the pit box. For example, our radios.
Hmm.
If it was communicated that we're going in, we didn't need the radio, so we could. There are certain things that we could do ahead of time before actually arriving to the pit box.
Yeah.
And when you would arrive to the pit box, we every driver would have their own unique way to get out of the car quickly, help the other driver get in and put their seatbelts on. So we had a pretty good plan and strategy in how we're doing that. And towards the end of our driver change practice, one of my teammates stupidly pressed the fucking fire extinguisher button in the car. So for anyone that may not know what happens when you press the fire extinguisher in a fucking TCR car, what happens is, literally think of a pressurized balloon exploding in the car. So there are two extinguishers that go off. There's an internal one, and there's one in the engine bay.
Hmm.
So when he pressed that material was all over the cockpit. It was sprayed everywhere, including his own helmet, and it was everywhere. And in the engine bay, it was spraying everywhere. And it was just an unfortunate accident.
Have you have
At
you
first,
have you managed to go back on track after that?
yeah. So we were doing this. We were doing this after qualifying. I
Okay.
think my teammate qualified third.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was, but yeah, we had a pretty good spot. And after this after my stint, I think we were still third or second. I forgot what it was, but we before the race we managed to clean everything up, and we couldn't test the car because after qualifying, the next day's the race. And before the race, there's a slight warm up. And then after that incident happened, the thankfully the crew, the mechanics, they were able to try to wipe down and fix everything that we could see. But you know a problem that we encountered was our the extinguisher went into certain electronics
Hmm.
and in our steering wheel,
Hmm.
and that is something that we couldn't take apart to kind of dry and make sure it wasn't all right. Because by the time we cleaned everything up, before the race, we went to the warm up and everything seemed fine. Everything seemed like it worked, and we're just all laughing about it. Oh, you fucking idiot! How could you press the fire extinguisher button? And then on the fourth to fifth stint, that's where we started encountering problems. You
Mhm.
know, we encountered a problem where it wouldn't go in gear. It would be stuck in fourth gear,
Mhm.
and we couldn't downshift, we couldn't upshift, and you know when we had to bring the car back to fix, because in that situation it's dangerous, and you can't, you just imagine, doing a race and you're stuck in one gear.
Yeah.
It's impossible. So we had to bring the car back, and then from there we spent like 20 minutes fixing the car.
Yeah. So actually,
And
that accident happened during the qualifying.
it happened after qualifying, because
Okay.
after qualifying we're just in our pit
In
doing
practice.
driver change practice.
Practice. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just practicing. Yeah, because we did a pretty good qualifying. My teammate put in a good position for us, and yeah, we're just doing driver change just
Yeah.
as practice. And then yeah, my stupid teammate fucking pressed the fire extinguisher button, and that cost us 20 minutes twice, actually, because we encountered another problem where our display was turning off.
Yeah.
Our Yeah, so
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, we felt that. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. That's what I always say is about motorsport. It's so many other things going on. Like for example, when there's a F1 race, right? So you can only see the race, like as a spectator or as a fan. But there's so many things going on around it within the practice, within the garage. What people are not able to see, and it it influences the results, and so this is the thing. What I think it's the motorsport is very unique about, right? Because like there's like for example, when you're an ice hockey player, when you're playing ice hockey, everything happens on the ice, actual thing. But there is it's not that big
Yeah.
influence from your, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of, I'm sure in ice hockey, there's a lot of strategy, a lot of plays with the coach and the team that you always work for.
Yeah.
How you tape your hockey stick, or how you sharpen your blades, or how tight you have it, down to the equipment you use. All these things, behind the scenes, people don't know.
Yeah.
And with racing, there's a lot of that. But in recent games, you could do a lot more setup change,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
that in itself is, brings a new dynamic to racing. But a lot of these things, people don't see. How the engineer of the race team is actually a very, very important role that people don't realize. And they're actually the heroes behind the race
Yeah,
driver. you
that's
know
what I wanted to touch, touch about, and have a conversation about. It's like
yeah.
the setups and your engineer. Like, how would you explain it? Like, for example, how much percentage of your final result would be your like actual driving performance, and then how much it would be the engine, all the stuff like how good your car is set up, and how good is your engineer, right? So how would you explain that one? How would you describe that one?
Okay, I don't know how much percent I would put on it,
Yeah.
but that percentage would be very high. Maybe 50-50
Oh.
to your driving performance, and to how your car is set up with the engineer. So typically in a race weekend, I'm not going to talk about the preparation before the race,
Yeah.
but going into the race, you and your engineer would decide what previous setup that you have
Mhm.
that you would apply to first go on the track.
Yeah.
Because you would look at the track layout, how many fast corners there are, how many straights there are. If the straights are long, you would want to, your downforce to not be as high. You know, um, if it has a lot of high braking, the car setup is completely different.
Yeah.
You'd have to talk with your engineer where the passing opportunities are, where you want the car to shine. For example, if they're in Shanghai, there's a lot of straights,
Yeah.
a lot of straights. You would want the most beneficial setup to gain the most speed on those straights. Versus a track like well, no, Macau still has a lot of straights. Versus a track that doesn't have that long of straights, where it's mostly corners. You know, this picture that you just put up was, these are things that I always go through with my engineer. You
Hmm.
know, so So before going into practice, we would decide on what setup that we would run. And from that setup, it doesn't matter if it fits you or not. You decide on a setup and then you go out to free practice and then you drive as hard as you can. And then afterwards you would sit down with your engineer and you will go through the footage. You will go through the video on board and you would go through exactly what your car is feeling
Hmm.
at that particular moment. So, for example, you know, um, at the bottom, if we start out on MP1, do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, MP1, I wrote flat out there. This was actually the first time I was on the track. So I wrote flat out because both these corners are flat out corners I could take my car.
Hmm.
And I was telling my engineer, certain corners I would feel, for example, an MP3 where Mandarin is, that's the fast corner. I would tell him that, I feel understeer upon entry. So we would work towards how we could make the car better there. But you know, the important thing with all this is he would hear all my feedback first. Like for example, I would tell him, okay, for example, Mandarin, I would feel the car kind of hesitating to turn in.
Hmm.
I would feel a bit more understeer, and then I would go through, going up through San Francisco Hill. The car may be a bit too bumpy. Maybe at maternity on the left. Oh no, sorry, on the right. I feel the car, the tail sliding. After I give them all these feedback, um, we would work towards a plan
Hmm.
on how to make the car better. For example, um, it's all about balance. You can't have a perfectly set up car where it's the best in every single corner.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, for example, if in the slow corners during trail break, you find if you want it to trail more, then naturally the car will be more oversteer.
Hmm.
But if you set the car like that, then you sacrifice high speed corners, for example, at Mandarin.
Yeah.
So you always have to balance, how you want the car to set up. Again, there's no perfect setup that, it's the best for low speed corners, medium speed corners, and high speed corners. So, you know, uh, the engineer that I work with, his name is John Waterman. He's a very famous engineer for BMW, most notably Colin Turkington.
Hmm.
He's been BTCC champion for a number of years, and he's his chief engineer. John actually works closely with Blancpain GT as well
Okay.
for the AMG team as well. So he's a very experienced engineer,
Hmm.
and he taught me and introduced a chart to me where he would write out in Excel, for example, turn one, how I feel in the entry, how the apex is, and how I feel on exit. So we go through the chart on each one. Turn one on entry, is the car okay? On apex, is it okay? If I'm throttling out on exit, how the car behaves. It's important for the driver to constantly remember and push the car at that particular corner and remember how the car behaves.
Hmm.
See, once you remember these things and remember how the car behaves, you would speak to your engineer and tell them exactly how you feel the car is behaving in that particular corner. And from there, that's where me and John or you and the engineer would decide how you want to set the car to kind of make, well, not kind of, to make you faster. But again, it goes back to all about balance.
Yeah.
If you make your car faster in certain areas, it will be slower in certain areas. You can't have the best of both worlds. But in a track like Macau, for example, safety for me at least, or stability in high speed corners is important to me. So I would have to sacrifice on rear rotation when I trail brake in a corner.
Hmm.
So that's a sacrifice I had to make. But as I'm not a professional race car driver,
Yeah.
well, I hope to be one day. But these kind of sacrifices you'd have to judge and compensate for yourself. But especially on a track like Macau where you can't really make any mistakes, it's better. Well, to me, it's better to have a more predictable non-oversteer car,
Yeah.
because if you oversteer in Macau, it's really easy to put in a wall.
Yeah.
And if you oversteer or lose any grip, that's where you lose time.
Mm.
So your engineer is the one who helps you decide
Yeah.
what you want to do. That's one thing that sim racing doesn't have yet. Well, Project Cars has that. Project Cars 3, I believe, or 2.
Hmm.
You would They have a mode where you would tell it, oh, you're oversteering on exit, or you're understeering on entry.
Hmm.
You would tell it,
And then
and then
engineer
it would
would.
make adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But even though they have this feature, I find that the adjustments aren't that great on it.
Yeah.
But similarly, this is something I would have to work with my engineer on
Yeah.
for all the races that I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, they to me, I think they play a very important part to you, because you know they're they can adjust the car to how you want it to behave in a certain corner.
Yeah.
They have the knowledge, they have the expertise to do that for you. So clear communication with them is really important. And I would attribute half of the success to be that. But
Yeah.
of course, when you get on a professional level, maybe these differences, as a driver, you always have to learn to adapt to new changes.
Yeah.
Whether it's tire degradation, or maybe there's oil on the track. There's always different things that you have to work around. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
you know
That's a good point. For example, Formula One, right? The some drivers they might not seen that they're not being seen like as the fastest, but they're very appreciated because of their feeling of the car and of the feedback how they're able to provide to their um, the engineers. So
yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I've
yeah,
heard,
exactly.
for example, the Grosjean. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard about Grosjean that for a lot of fans, he was like he's not consistent, he's not very fast. But I've heard that he was really
Yeah.
good in providing feedback, and that's why he was so appreciated in Formula One, and how that's
Hmm.
why he sticked around so long, and especially for the Formula One, right? Because like the sport is a lot. There's a lot about development, right? And big huge part um, plays like the feeling of the driver. How are they able to provide the feedback?
Yeah, one thing about that, Rob Huff, who's a multiple world champion, he's actually helped us develop the race car, the Peugeot that I race, for a number of years now. He's helped us set the car to a very predictable, very gradual, and very fast car. And one thing about Rob Huff that I feel is one of his core strengths is his driver feedback.
Yeah.
He has the capability to step in a car, drive it, push it, and let you know what changes can be made to make you and the car faster. And one thing that he's done that I felt really impressed by was, we were doing testing before Macau at our home circuit in Zhuhai.
Hmm.
It's a relatively fast track, and on the out on his first flying lap, he radioed the engineer, and he was saying, "You guys, there's the front left tire, it has too much air in it." he was able to tell the engineer that the front left tire was overinflated and that it was giving him certain irregular movements to the car.
Yeah.
And when he came back in the pit and we did the tire pressures, it was higher by like a couple of psi.
Hmm.
And but he was able to hop in the car and feel that immediately. And
Yeah,
to me
that's
that's impressive.
exactly. That's a great point. For example, I'm not saying Hamilton is he doesn't have a good car, but like that's a point about like how Hamilton is good, why he's good, and why he's in that position. For example, there was a few times when he was able to feel something what, for example, Bottas was not feeling. And for example, there was I don't know what race the Bottas got back puncture, Hamilton didn't, right? People seeing like that Hamilton is lucky or something, right? But there might be something behind
Yeah.
it why Hamilton is so good. And for example, also the strategies. Hamilton won so many races because of the strategies. Like he stayed on the
Hmm.
tires for longer than Bottas. But I think everything comes from his right for his feedback. He's able to provide their engineers with, okay, now my tires are still good. I'm able to keep going longer, and so that's also really a huge part, I think, for the success.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that, Kimi Raikkonen was assigned to Alfa Romeo for that sole purpose to help them develop that car.
Yeah,
I've heard that Kimi is also another driver that gives good feedback
yeah,
because, you have all different types of drivers. You have arrogant drivers who are fast, and if they don't perform, they just blame the car,
yeah,
but they don't talk to the engineer to how to improve the car. You know,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so driver feedback is really important, and that's one aspect that I feel Rob Huff is really, really strong at. He's really good at driver feedback and setting up a good race car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, what would you consider as your strongest side as a driver and your weakest side as your driver?
Strongest side, I would feel that I'm consistent. Um, I I'm able to put in similar lap times within within a tenth, um, when I'm racing,
Yeah.
but this has to do with my practice, my ever-ending practice in sim racing, because when you're racing, you have to be consistent no matter what. But of course, if you're attacking or defending, that's going to hurt your lap time. But being consistent in racing is really important,
Yeah.
and I feel that consistency is something I'm good at.
And what about
Um,
your strong side?
my weak side, you mean?
No, that was weak side, right? The you
No,
lost.
no, 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 no. That was my strength. Is my I'm consistent.
Oh, you
My
constant. Okay,
strength
I heard.
is that,
Okay, okay, okay. Sorry.
yeah, I'm consistent. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I'm able to put consistent lap times on.
Mhm.
My weak side is that, in real racing, at least, is my lap one. Um, my lap one pace is I'm too conservative. You
Mhm.
know, it's improved over the years, but at the beginning of my racing career, my lap one is tend to be the weakest because I'm conservative. The tires are cold. Sometimes I would have self doubt,
Yeah.
and especially in front wheel drive cars. Um, at the beginning of the race, when tire degradation is the highest, that's where you would typically set the car to be oversteer. The
Mhm.
reason why you do that is because as your front tires wear, if you set the car to be neutral or understeer, towards the end of the race, it will be significantly more understeery if
Mhm.
you set it understeer or neutral. So that's why a lot of front wheel drive cars, it's set more so on oversteers to help you with the your race pace towards the end.
Yeah.
So you know, most of my racing career I've done is with front wheel drive cars. So at the beginning of the race, even though I may have a good start, a good launch, I would always be hesitant, to push it too much because the car may be too oversteer, the tires are cold, so I'm I'm not at 100% of my pace,
Yeah.
but I've made a mental note of that, because my father have told me a couple times. He would watch my onboards with me, and then he would tell me, "Hey, for your first lap, you need to push harder than you do because the
Yeah.
car can handle it." But I'm taking it too conservative, so that was one of my weak points. But that's gone a lot better. Um, I think another weak point of mine is that, um, I make a very I make a mistake in not taking the car to the absolute limit during free practice in a race weekend,
Hmm.
because you know um, a lot of times when you go into a race in a brand new track, you're you first have to explore how to drive the car first. What the best optimal line is. But in doing so, you have to consistently push every single time you have track time on there.
Yeah.
Not, of course, what I'm saying is not push the car to the point where you're losing balance and you're about to crash. But you need to consistently push the car where it's at the absolute limit.
Yeah.
You always have to push yourself out of that comfort zone where, oh, even though during first practice or practice session you may be P1, but all these doesn't matter if you're not consistently finding the limitations of every single corner. Of course, when we race in my home track or tracks that I'm familiar with, it's really easy to get there. But when you're racing in new new tracks, you constantly need to find those extra milliseconds where you can gain time. And
Yeah.
for me, maybe because I'm more of a conservative driver, that I don't constantly push myself to find those limits. So I think that's really important. I'm sure sim racing, it's you've encountered a position where you're just doing the same lap time over and over again. But in actuality, you know, you could you could find a couple of tents or wherever somewhere else. But it's always being kind of curious and explore and pushing yourself. And I think I have to do more of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. All right, perfect.
yeah,
Thank you very much for that. For the explanation. It's very nice to hear from the guys who has experience from the real racing. Okay. I think we could move a little bit to the sim to your sim racing experience, to your sim racing setup, and then we can go on track and have some race together.
sure,
All right. So let's see
sure.
your setup. So this is your old setup, right? So this is your beginnings, or how old is this? Can you?
Sorry, the picture's still loading. Oh, okay. So this was okay. Hold on. Can you pause it on the first setup?
I'm not
Because it's
able.
been
I'm not able.
it's
I'm not able to pause it. But like, yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So 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 this one, this is actually my little cousin.
Mhm.
He was wearing my helmet to try. But this was my first proper sim racing setup, where it was my first rig where I had triple screens, and I was using a Thrustmaster wheel and pedal setup there, and that was my first ever proper rig that I was racing with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was using a Thrustmaster T8 TH8 RS, I think. Yeah, and yeah, that was the first rig I've had where I was racing, where I started doing iRacing and race '07. Yeah, and then from there, I started paying attention to more sim racing hardware. And the limiting thing on this is that the setup I had, it wasn't modular. Like I couldn't change to any wheel that I wanted to because at that time, you know, sim racing companies were coming out with more products.
Yeah.
Sim Experience had launched their wheel. HPP Racing had their first hydraulic pedal come out, and I I was taking more serious in sim racing because at that time I wasn't racing yet, so the only sort of racing I could do was on sim. So I decided to spend more money on my sim setup.
Hmm.
And the red the red rig that you see here, that's from Fast Track Sims. And that was a very uh, rigid sim frame that I really liked. Red was a really attractive color, and
So you already have a
it didn't show
motion.
here, but
You have a motion on it already, right?
no, 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 no,
No.
still no motion on this.
Okay.
I had transducers, the transducers that vibrate. That was the only kind of tactile thing I had on the rig, and I had that on all four corners, and
Hmm.
it would kind of vibrate when you go over apexes and whatnot. But yeah, this was the upgrade, um, the next upgrade I had, and I actually made a big difference because that was when I moved from thrustmaster wheel to a direct drive wheel, which was the Sim Experience AccuForce wheel.
Yeah.
And for the pedals, that was when I bought my first hydraulic set of pedals from HPP, and they were amazing. And from hardware side, I I really I really thought they were top of the line. And for me, it was really good experience and really good hardware. And
Yeah.
since Hong Kong is a very small place, I didn't want to be running triples all the time.
Yeah.
So that's when Oculus first came out, the Oculus Rift. And when I purchased that, that was the biggest game changer for me because, you know,
Yeah.
in VR, you have the best, view. You have a direct immersion to how you are in a race car.
Yeah.
And that's when I switched from triple screens to VR. And even though VR at that time, you know, I it wasn't that good. Well, it still isn't that good,
Hmm.
VR, because the resolution's not good. It's not clear, and you're wearing a very clunky kind of thing on your head, and
Yeah.
it's heavy and it's hot. It's not the greatest, but at that time, to because I didn't have that much space, replacing those triples were amazing.
Yeah.
And it was a very immersive
How,
experience for
how
me.
would you compare the triple and VR? Which is better for you? I think it's really hard to compare, right? But feeling wise, I think the VR is better, right?
Okay, I personally think, okay, not talking on the quality of VR, because right now the DPI on VR and the resolution is still shit.
Hmm.
It's still not mature enough yet, to have total clarity, because you still don't have complete view in a VR headset. You still have spots in the corner of your eye where it's just pure blackness.
Yeah.
But I'm sure as time goes on, VR would become better and better, and it will improve. But in terms of immersion, in terms of view, you cannot beat VR.
Hmm.
VR to me is still the best currently. But one thing that I really dislike about VR is, it over time becomes very hot. It's very,
Uncomfortable.
yeah, it's very uncomfortable, and the DPI is not good. Because how resolution affects the driver is, if you make mental notes on, for example, brake markers or when your turning points are, if you can't see that in a far distance ahead, then it's a big distraction.
Yeah.
Because the resolution's still not high. It's very annoying when you can't even see, uh, 200-300 meters away where everything's kind of blurry.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That shouldn't happen in real life. And it doesn't. It certainly doesn't happen in triples.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
makes you inconsistent and not that fast, right? Because sometimes, yeah.
yeah, correct. Yeah. But having said that, even though I went through three different VR headsets, I had the Oculus, and then I bought the Pimax, which was really good, but it was uncomfortable and I was having software issues. And then I moved on to the Valve Index.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Valve Index. That was a good VR headset. But at the end of the day, I started racing with you, and I started doing a lot more endurance races on sim racing.
Hmm.
And wearing VR over time, especially when you're doing endurance races, or when I first met you during the first wave of coronavirus, we were racing for like 3-4 hours
Yeah.
each day. And wearing that headset for 3-4 hours is uncomfortable. And at least for me, over time it started to be, I started having eye strain.
Yeah.
And I wasn't yeah, I was worried for my eye health, so I decided to get triples.
Yeah.
And moving on to triples, it's what's great about it is, I always gel my hair. So whenever let's say you get ready for work or whatnot, or if you have some time to hop on a race, if you wear your VR headset, then it's gonna completely ruin your hair.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have to shower again. And it was really annoying. But moving to triples, the greatest thing was it was a lot more clear.
Hmm.
You know, it was a lot more comfortable. I could see things a lot more. But immersion is still not as good as VR, but I'm willing to trade that,
Yeah.
because it's more comfortable on my eyes. I could have a fan, it's a lot more comfortable, and doing endurance races is a lot better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I personally prefer triples at the current moment, but I'm sure as VR technology improves, VR will always beat triples 100% in terms of immersion.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not saying if you run VR you'll be faster versus triples or single strain. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you want the most immersive experience, it's 100% VR. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing that can beat it. There's nothing that can beat VR. But I didn't like the drawbacks of VR, but again, as I said, when technology starts improving, I'm sure it will, maybe in the future it'll be kind of like what you're doing, just wear your glasses and
Yeah.
you're already in VR,
Yeah.
but until it improves to that stage, I'm gonna stick to triples.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this picture, this is
This
my
is your
setup that
current.
I have
Yeah.
now.
So so
Yeah, this is my current
so
setup.
so just briefly explain us what you have and what's the parts of it. So you have I think you explained to me. You said to me the seat is from real car and your pedals are from the real cars, right?
Yeah. So the seat that I have on this rig, it's actually from my father's 2011 Chevrolet Cruze, the WTCC car,
Mhm.
and this was actually the seat that he won the championship in Macau. So it has a lot of sentimental value, and it's carbon fiber and it looks cool. So I put that on my rig,
Yeah.
and the rig frame is from Sim Labs.
Mhm.
It's the best. It's the best rig that I've ever owned, and I think for anyone who wants to get into sim racing to purchase one of these, the reason why I like this rig so much is because it's very modular.
Mhm.
With these aluminum profiles, you could change anything that you want. If you want to change the distance from your feet to the steering wheel, you can do that. You can go from triples to single monitor. If you buy a brand new shifter, you can install it precisely to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Versus other pre-built steel frame rigs, the adjustability is limited.
Yeah.
And having a comfortable, proper driving position is really, really important. And
Yeah.
this 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 chassis enables me to do that.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah, the monitor wise, I'm using. Yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah. Go. Continue. Continue.
Yeah, the monitors I'm using are 29-inch curved monitors from AOC. They're 144 refresh rate. I think they're good enough.
Yeah. What
They're
about the
definitely not the
motion?
best monitors, but yeah. So when I started to get more into sim racing and from real racing, I started really, really loving racing.
Hmm.
One thing that I always wanted was motion.
Yeah.
So I actually bought a D box system. It's a four actuator system, and it moves 3 inches, 3 inches vertically, and I have it on all four corners of my rig, so it simulates every tire move or the suspension movement.
Hmm.
That was probably the most expensive thing I've bought on my sim rig.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's quite expensive, but I know D-Box has newer models which are much cheaper. So yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
bought it when it was really expensive, but um, I think that was one of the better purchases I've had.
Yeah.
Along with the brakes, the brakes I have here are from SimTag,
Hmm.
and they're a company out of Belgium. They actually have headquarters in at the Spa circuit,
Hmm.
and these pedals, I feel, are the best equipment that I've purchased for my entire sim rig. Like I could do without motion, but those brakes are really what helps me because they use the Tilton pedals, which are exactly the same brakes I have in all my race cars.
Hmm.
On my TCR cars, I'm using these. On my on the Golf TCR and the Audi TCR, I'm using these.
Hmm.
On the my Peugeot, I'm using these, so I'm really familiar with the brake pedals and the feel of it, and those pedals are worth every penny to me. And for my wheel, I'm using the SimiCube Pro. That was yeah, that was a purchase I made last year, and for the steering wheel, I'm using Turn Racing steering wheel and also Asher Racing,
Yeah.
the wireless remote. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I can't say it's the best setup, but it's a setup that I really enjoy, and I
Can you tell us approximately what would be the price? Approximately
man
the cost of it. It's like,
man I don't know. Like it's just one of those things that you keep
yeah, you
you
don't count.
keep improving time
Yeah,
after time
yeah.
after
So
time.
it's hard to
Yeah,
count. Yeah.
I don't know. I think don't tell my wife this, but I think if you add all the things together, maybe like 20 to 30,000
Okay.
US dollars.
Yeah.
I
It's
think. I don't remember, but again, this wasn't one purchase. It was just
yeah,
it
and
was things I bought over time and slowly built towards. Yeah.
yeah, and still cheaper than the real racing, right?
Yeah. Definitely, most definitely. And a question I get asked about my motion, and my brakes. People ask me, "Hey, does it make you faster?" No.
Yeah.
And the quick answer to that is no. It doesn't make anyone faster. The
Yeah.
reason why the reason why I bought those brakes is because sim racing to me is extension of real racing. So when I'm not on the track,
Yeah.
I'm on my simulator, and having that muscle memory in training your trail braking is really important. And these hydraulic pedals they mimic
Yeah.
almost exactly how it feels in my car, so that's important to me. And with the motion, for me, it's it makes sim racing more enjoyable. You
Yeah.
know, when you brake, you have the G-force that makes you lunge forward. You know, when you're turning, it tilts you. You know, all these things added, it actually makes you a slower sim racer as opposed to making you a faster sim racer because you know having motion it would interfere with your physical inputs. So imagine if you don't have motion, you know, you don't have anything that's fighting against you when you're turning the wheel.
Yeah.
But if you have motion, you know, when you're in a corner and it jolts you, then you know that kind of movement can offset the precision of your driving input.
Yeah.
So if anything, it makes me slower. But you know, I could tell you, 100%, it makes it a lot more fun.
Exactly. It's about the feeling. Like
Yeah,
one thing is to be fast on sim, and one thing is to be to feel what you want to feel, and if you want to be as close as possible
yeah,
to
yeah,
reality.
yeah,
Okay. With that
yeah,
being
yeah,
said,
exactly. Because yeah,
about the softwares, which is your the favorite sim for now? Or I think it's really hard to judge. It depends on what you're looking for, right?
yeah, exactly. I think okay. What I personally like, okay, the two sims that I like are iRacing and Race Room.
Okay.
Okay, I like the iRacing uh, physics.
Mhm.
I think it depicts more accurate than Race Room.
Mhm.
But what I like about Race Room is the tolerance for battling when you're battling with someone and the contact.
Mhm.
Like for me, iRacing, you know, sometimes the collision physics is absolute ridiculous.
Mhm.
You know, I think iRacing is has you know a big gap to fill in that. But I'm sure you know you've encountered a race where in iRacing, if you're racing alongside someone and then he just taps you and all of a sudden you do a 180 spin.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of instances where I find in iRacing, you know, it would read the wrong kind of physical contact input where the touch itself, you know, if it were in real racing, it wouldn't really affect much. You
Yeah.
know, if someone were to touch you, maybe you would just have to adjust your wheel. But in iRacing, if that happens, you know, more often than not, that would cause your car to do a complete tail slide and you would end up hitting the wall and your race would be over.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that I dislike about iRacing is that, you know, it's not realistic in terms of, you
Yeah.
know,
And
when cars touch, how it works.
yeah, you're right. You're right. I feel the same way. One more question. So,
Yeah,
have you tried Assetto
yeah.
Corsa Competizione?
Yes, I have, but I haven't played it too extensively.
Okay.
The reason why I haven't is because with Race Room, they have WTCR and WTCC, which are cars that I drive often. So, you know, I've been racing more on Race Room lately than I have with GT cars. Preliminary, when I played it, what I enjoyed about ACC is the sound is really realistic. It's really close to how it actually sounds like.
Yeah.
Still, the I think the driving physics isn't as good as iRacing,
Yeah.
but this is just my opinion. You know, I'm not saying that ACC is not good. It's just I feel that the physics iRacing is better. But you know, with ACC, I think the collision physics is still better than iRacing. You know, some touches wouldn't be so dramatic and so fatal, so yeah, so
Yeah.
dramatic as iRacing. But you know, I think with Race Room, the collision physics is the best. You know,
Mhm.
because you know when you have small contacts, yes, it does affect you, but it wouldn't ruin your race.
Yeah.
You know,
All right.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I think if they had a combination of the three, that would be the best. You know, because at the end of the day, what sucks for iRacing is the amount of cars you can drive. You know, they're very limited. You know, and most people enjoy driving GT3s
yeah.
a lot more, and I enjoy driving touring cars a lot more. So that platform isn't really the greatest for me.
Yeah, what would be the best? What would be the most similarities between the sim racing and real racing, and what would be the biggest difference between those two?
I think the I think sim racing has come a long way
Mhm.
from how it was when Gran Turismo has come. But one thing that I really uh, love about sim racing is right now um, how they turn a track from reality into a video game.
Yeah.
A lot of times before I go to a brand new circuit that I've never been to, I would practice on either iRacing or Race Room. And I've done this a lot of times before I go into a race, where I would practice on that track, even though I may not be driving the same car. You know, I could have a lot of seat time to learn the track and to learn, the breakpoints and whatnot. And that's been extremely valuable to me.
Hmm.
As a race car driver, I get to have the opportunity to learn a brand new track.
Yeah.
You know, this is this is really good. And more often than not, I'd say they're 80 to 90% correct in how they do the tracks. Of
Hmm.
course, nothing is like the real thing, but the it's they've they've done a really good job in developing some of these tracks. Another similarity I find is the pressure that you feel as a race car driver,
Hmm.
whether you're attacking or defending, whether you're in P1 and it's the last lap. The emotions,
The mental
what's going
aspect.
on through your head. Exactly. That really is really similar to me with sim racing and real racing,
Uh-huh.
because whether you're attacking or defending, you'll always have to be wary about, for example, if you're trying to attack, you'll always have to pay attention where the guy ahead of you, where his weaknesses are, where his strengths are, where you're quicker than him, where he's slower, where you have to judge the distance, where the best time to put it on the inside to pass him is. All these things is exactly the same as real racing.
Yeah.
You know, to build that kind of mental stability, to know, to be really aware of where and what to do.
Hmm.
That to me is really important. And again, one of my strengths is the consistency. You know, uh, Even though I may not be consistently fast in setting P1 times all the time, I'm consistent in maintaining almost similar lap times throughout the entire race, and I have to dedicate that to sim racing.
Yeah.
You know, just practice after practice after practice. It's if under situations where there's no car in front of you or behind you, where you're not attacking or defending, having the same kind of muscle memory to do the same inputs, to be repetitive, to be consistent is really important. And I gained a lot of that through sim racing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And what's the
Yeah. But
biggest what is the biggest difference?
I think the biggest difference now is still the physics of it, like the tire model with all sim racing.
Yeah.
It's still not the same, especially with the grip levels.
Hmm.
You know, when you hop on a sim, you can set, oh, it's the afternoon, or you can set it's whether cold or hot. But when you actually hop on the game, it's very similar.
Hmm.
Your breakpoints are similar. When you how much braking you apply and how you trail brake, it's not as reactive as it is in a real car. Because in a real car during a race, tire degradation is something that really affects how the car behaves and how you drive the car.
Hmm.
And so far, I haven't really felt that tire degradation be integrated into a race. Where I'm sure, during those the endurance races that we do in Nordschleife, even though through at the beginning of your stint to your last stint, even though your times may be slower,
Hmm.
but the driving feeling is pretty much the same
Yeah.
once after lap one to your end stint. In real racing, that would never happen. you
Yeah.
know your your tire wear would greatly affect how you brake, how you accelerate, all these things. I still think there's still a ways to go on that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was talking about is you know the drafting and the effects of dirty air, and how your car would behave under drafting. There's still a ways to go in that. When you were asking me about that pump brake,
Hmm.
I think that may be a bit too realistic,
Yeah.
because yeah, if if any sim racer is not on if they're not on a strong brake, if they're using maybe a Logitech or a Thrustmaster or whatnot, they may not be able to feel that difference. So I think I may be asking too much there, but
Yeah.
uh yeah, but that's just me being nitpicking,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
um yeah, another thing is the physics. There are too many times where I'm having a good race with someone, and then a minimal physical contact would result in something that's catastrophic.
Yeah.
A lot of times that doesn't make any sense, and it ruined a lot of races. And I hope that one day they can improve on that.
Yeah. What about the
Um,
911 Cup on iRacing? That's a really my one of the favorite
oh
cars.
man,
But it's you said it's very unrealistic, right? How sensitive
oh
and
man, like,
unbalanced it
okay,
is.
I really enjoy driving the iRacing Porsche Cup. That's one of my favorite series to do because it's the most challenging, because it's really easy to lose control.
Yeah.
It's really easy to spin out. But, the biggest, complaint I have with that is that, having driven the real car,
Hmm.
there is no way that the car is so easily to spin out. There's no way it's so easily to lock your brakes. It just doesn't happen on a real car.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone who's driven on slick tires, it's really hard to lock the brakes once they're warm.
Yeah.
And especially on a 997 Cup or Porsche Cup, your rear tires are really wide.
Hmm.
And the engine's in the rear, which means there's a lot of weight in the rear.
Hmm.
So for the tail to always slide out on power is impossible, because on slick tires, and with the tire width of it, I don't even know what the tire width. I think it's like 300, 315. I don't know the actual tire
Hmm.
width of it, but I know it's a wide tire. Yeah, that would never happen in the Porsche Cup car.
Yeah.
It would never happen. It would never happen. Like, okay, if you're telling me, if the conditions are really cold, very very cold, and you're on brand new tires, sure, you can lock your brakes. Sure, you can spin out. But in typical iRacing environments, where it's normally 25 to 30 degrees, and especially after you know after lap one of a race, there's no way that the throttle input would send your car spinning. There's no way that the brakes would lock up so easily.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't. But I guess iRacing did that on purpose to make it more challenging to drive, which is why me and you enjoy it so much, because it's so difficult to drive,
Oh yeah.
and it, it's the car's always on edge, where you have to be patient. If you make any slight error, you'll have to pay for the consequences. I guess they purposely did that, but in terms of how realistic it is, it's not realistic at all. It's not realistic at all to the real car. It's I have tremendous argument towards that, but at the end of the day, iRacing maybe purposely did that just to develop a car that's very challenging to drive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's not fucking realistic. It's
Yeah,
so
you're
far
right.
from how it is.
I agree. I agree. I agree, man. I agree. All right, man. So, thank you very much for all your information, for all your time. We are almost. I think we're done with the talking. I very appreciate.
Finally.
No, no, no. Man. I. That's the most important thing. Like most exciting thing for me. When I hear real drivers talking, I would be able to hear like for 1,000 hours and sit there and listen all your stories and all your experiences and all your feelings from the real car.
Yeah.
So for me,
Yeah.
it's uh, it's huge. So let's move on. Let's have some races. So what we're gonna have first? We're gonna have some race. I mean, some practice session where you're gonna give me guide and explain me things on the Macau real quick, like for
Sure.
5-10 minutes, and then we're gonna
Sure.
have battle between each other on Sepang.
Sure. Okay. Jacob, give me 2 minutes. I'm just gonna run to the washroom real quick.
Okay,
All
man.
right.
Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on.
All right, we have a little break. We're waiting on Alex to come from his bathroom break, and then we're gonna have some races. I'm very looking forward. When he was explaining his experience and the feelings about the Macau. I've never driven that the car before. Honestly, I tried it for I think 5 laps before the broadcast, so just to know, so I would not be lost totally. But I'm probably gonna be lost, but still, I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to see how what Alex gonna tell me about that and drive it by itself. It's gonna be fun.
All right, buddy.
All right, man.
Hello.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Hold on.
I'm on the server, so
I don't have a proper setup for this, so I'm
never
gonna have to move my laptop.
never mind, bro. It's gonna be all right.
Hold on.
However you're gonna make it, it's gonna be good.
I need to adjust the. Can you see much from this?
1 second. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me put my headphone in. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna put sound on 30, so I can hear also you, but also the car. Okay, I'm on the track. Are you here?
Yeah. Do you see me?
1 second.
I'm just heading out.
Oh yeah. Okay. I have just basic setup, so
Yeah, I'm on basic setup too. I set it up so it's only fixed setup. So going out here, this is we're gonna approach the fastest corner. This is the Mandarin corner, which is the most dangerous corner in all of Macau. Depending on the car you drive, you can normally take this flat out, but with this car, you can just lift and
Okay.
Yeah, and then we are heading into Lisboa. So you can start to brake right after the 200 mark and then all the way down to second gear. Okay, and then we're going up San Francisco Hill. You just brake a little, keep in third, full throttle. I'm not sure of the Honda, whether it's fifth gear or not, but you drop down a gear when you hit the bridge, and then brake to second, and then brake a little, keep in second, turn the right, and then here for the left, downshift into second, hug the corner, third gear, brake a little onto the right, and then here it's no braking needed.
I'm struggling to keep up with you, bro.
Alright, I'll drive slower,
I've never driven this truck.
Really?
No.
Yeah, you can see how demanding it is, huh?
Exactly, but it's so good, man. I love it.
See, with this, you know, you could see how imagine reality you were driving this. You know, there's no runoff area. There's absolutely all walls on the left and right of you. So if you ever make a mistake, you know, you're going into the wall. So this is the hairpin.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's tight, huh?
It's almost the full.
So in the
full rotation of the wheel.
Yeah. So in reality, okay, for this corner, you brake after the 100 marker onto third gear. So in reality, that corner is always a yellow flag, so that you can never overtake anyone there.
Okay.
So this, you brake at the 100 marker onto third gear. Okay. Brake a bit earlier, so you're gonna go on throttle out, go on power earlier. This is flat on fifth.
Okay. Can you make?
And then as you exit out.
So the next one is flat in real life. With TCR?
No, depending on the car. With this, it's you brake a little. You brake a little in real life.
I'm gonna try flat. No. I had to lift. I had to lift off.
Yeah, you lift a little in this game. So you just brake after the 200 mark.
Oh, I licked the fence a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, but
see, imagine how much pressure you have.
I cannot imagine, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really exhilarating.
Oh God.
Are you okay, buddy?
Once you left out of my sight, I'm not able to. Because when I saw you, I was able to see the race line. Now I'm lost.
Here, I'll drive slower here.
Okay.
This is just lift a little, but flat on the right. Okay.
Okay.
This is second gear. Early on throttle out.
I also haven't driven a front wheel drive for a long time, so I.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the understeering, I feel so much.
Yeah, so you'll have to counter the understeer, you'd have to trail brake a lot more in these cars.
Yeah.
That's how front wheel drive cars, you get that rotation in a bit more when you trail brake. Yeah, it takes a lot to get used to.
Yeah, man. But the
okay,
track...
so brake after the 100 meter. Okay.
Okay. But the brake by the track by itself is awesome.
Yeah, it's see, this is why it's considered like the Stanley Cup Super Bowl of Asia and racing.
I'm in the wall.
Just
But
Because when you race, yeah,
yeah,
sorry, go on.
yeah. Yeah, my
See, when you race on this,
no, yeah. Keep
hello,
going, keep
can
going.
you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Oh, where'd you go?
Like I said, I'm in the wall. So, but like once,
Oh, okay.
1 second. Like my stream is lagging, so that's alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, my computer is sometimes not able to handle all the pressure. But it's. Where are you now?
But yeah, I'm going up to. I just passed Mandarin, the fast corner, fast
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
yeah, in Macau, the other special thing about it is that there's only a few places where you can pass people, and that's after Mandarin going up to Lisboa.
Mhm.
You know that's where you can pass.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's awesome, man. It's a great to have the description of it from you. It's for me. It's really similar to Monaco, but it's much more challenging. I feel like
yeah.
because of the elevation changes and the corners are much more narrow and they're more complicated. There is a sequential like there is a sequences of the corners which going like you know.
Exactly.
All right, go to the pit. Go to the pit. Let's do 2 more laps. I want to try to keep following you. I have an idea
All right.
of the track now.
Okay. So on the outlap, since the tires are cold, you can lift a little, and then go. Remember to brake after the 200. Yeah, so you brake now.
It's lagging so badly. Oh my god.
Oh,
Can you see me? Where am I? You're not
is
on
it?
my screen.
No. I messed up at Lisboa. Here, let's go again. Are you okay?
Yeah, I am, but the stream is
Here,
not
I'm in the pit now.
the stream is not working, man. It's totally freeze, totally lagged.
Oh
Once,
no.
yeah, my computer is just it cannot handle the.
Ah.
All right, I think we're pretty much done. I'm gonna try to restart the stream and the Streamlabs. We'll see what's gonna happen, and then we